What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Alpha Zone. I am not your normal host, Sean Malloy. I am Kent instead. Sean's having a terrible internet accident. So we're coming to you live. I made him wait for a cable guy. So to my imaginary left, as always, in honor of Sean,
what's up?
The man from the Emerald Isle, Ronan Fox.
What's happening, guys?
How's it going?
You're not Sean, and then, but I'll let you go with it.
And then to my imaginary right, a special guest from the great state of Indiana. I don't know what they're known for out there besides Mike Pence, but
basketball. We're known for basketball.
Pacers, yeah, Pacers.
Yeah.
You got that boy George up in there.
Yeah. Since it's your first swing at being on the show, for those that don't know, I've talked about KG before on the show. Sorry, man. So you're living with some
it's all right.
Multiplayer stories. Let them know kind of where you're from, what you're about, what you play.
Well, from a small town in Elwood, Indiana, and I play mainly PS4. And last generation, I was playing 360 mostly, and switched over. I own a PS4, Xbox, and PC, and really about basically first-person shooters. And played a lot of Destiny, way too much.
Yeah, KG was my standard roll dog for Destiny for a big chunk of
Destiny, KG?
No. I gave that addiction a break. I'm waiting for the second need.
Number 2.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
All right, so as always, I think I want to get it rolling with what we're playing. I'll take the first swing because what I've been playing lately is nothing of note. I've jumped back into Modern Warfare Remaster. It's okay. I think it visually runs really nice. I still find the gameplay pretty addictive, but the little microtransaction thing, and it's not pay to win, it's play to win, but it's really like mobile level egregious. And so that's been kind of disappointing me. So I've been playing it, but I have a grimy feeling while I play it. And then a little bit of Ghost Recon Wildlands because Yona, who lives with me, picked it up. So we've actually been like playing from 2 different rooms in the house.
Nice.
So since you will send it to you next, what do you think? What have you been playing lately?
I've been playing Lawbreakers and kind of just trying out that new beta. It's Cliff Bleszinski's new game, the guy who made Gears of War. And I'm actually really enjoying it. I played the closed alpha a few months ago and actually did not enjoy it. And I thought I would give it another chance now that it's closer to release, and really enjoyed it. It's kind of hard to describe. I would say it's closer to Quake than Overwatch. It does have character classes, but the combat's really fast, and I find it really fun. The mechanics fun. I'm really excited for it to actually come over to PS4. I want to try that out, and it's only $30, so I'm looking forward to that. But that and Zelda, I'm still kind of chipping away on every once in a while.
It's probably good Sean is in here then if you're playing Zelda. He'd have a whole lot to say about that.
Yeah.
He loves that game. Not.
What about you, Ronan? What have you been jamming?
So I picked up a couple of games on we got a double discount deal here in Europe. I don't know whether you have it in the States there. I picked up GTA Vice City, and Sleeping Dogs for I think $6.99 for both games. So I have been trucking through Sleeping Dogs. I started there earlier on this evening, and I see why it got such high praise when it first came out. I didn't actually get to play it when it first came out, but I said I'd wait for a price drop, and now I have not only the original game, but a definitive edition where the graphics are, they're smoothed out. The graphics are not where this game shines whatsoever. It's the story, and the gameplay is pretty fun as well. It takes a lot of tropes from the likes of the Batman series, that type of fighting style where you have counters popping up. You can use the environment to fight, and just a really cool, dark story. It's really got me. It's hooks in me. And I have been went back to a game which I never thought I would because it didn't catch me the first time I played, and that's GTA Online. I think starting that game is quite difficult. For level 1 to 16, you're kind of just doing random jobs, trying to get a little bit of money. It's very difficult to make money in this game. But once you get by that, you know, that first opening section and the heist unlock, and you can open up a bike gang, and you know, you can play with your friends. You know, you can you can race, you can do death matches, you can go on a heist, you can do jobs for your bike gang. There's so much variation in that game, and I've only really started to appreciate it now. This late into the GTA 5 cycle, it's ridiculous. But I've put about 40 hours maybe in the last week, and yeah, I'm going to continue to play it and try and build my empire. I'm really enjoying it now at the moment.
Still on your Americana tip a little bit.
I very much am, and I probably will be for the next 2 years. Yeah.
So since KG was here last go around, we were talking about Ronan actually went to Vegas, so it was his first trip to the U.S. So he checked out Vegas, did some drinking, hanging out by the pool, had the obligatory In-N-Out burger.
I can't wait for that. I'm going to Vegas too, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Like top 3, the In-N-Out burger.
So if you're going to In-N-Out on the link, KG, here's a little tip for you. There's a pizza joint right beside that place, and I've never eaten pizza like it before. It was absolutely delicious. So if you're feeling like it is a pizza for dessert, just go in there after In-N-Out and check it out.
Yeah, pizza for dessert after In-N-Out. That sounds amazing.
So yeah. Are you finding that it's like hard to get people to play online with still on GTA 5 this late in the cycle? Or because like I know my friends list is not really active on that.
Out of I'd say 40 of my friends, at least 5 people are playing every time I go on. Like there's always someone there. And the 2 people that I play with, shout out to Johnny and Saoirse, they come on and you know they take it a little bit serious, which is what I like, you know, getting into the mood of a biker gang. We all have to wear leather jackets, we all have to ride bikes, you know. It just makes it, and it adds to the immersion of that game. I'm not big on the whole buy a tank for 1 million and go and blow everything up. I like the building an empire, the likes of the bike gang. You start with these rusty bikes, and then you know you have a little bit of money to go and upgrade your bike, and then you can turn it. Like we have red and black as our colors, and now we all ride around in red and black bikes, and it's just badass. It's really good. And there's always people online. Like there's guys level 500 in that game. We've seen people fly by on, you know, motorcycles that can fly with rockets attached to the front of it. It's ridiculous, but it's really fun. I'm glad I got the hook. I don't know how long I'm going to play it for, but I'm glad, you know, I appreciate it and I know why people play it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Grand Theft Auto never really, at least the online portion never really clicked with me. I really enjoyed the single player for 5, but maybe it was because I was trying to take the online portion too seriously, and you would just have some guy fly like a jet plane into me, and I was like, "What is going on? This is like pure chaos."
Yeah,
but
I felt the exact same way, KG. I did not like online for a long time. Like, what is it, 4 years out? It's ridiculous that I'm only playing it now. So I felt the exact same way as you.
Yeah.
Yeah, ironically, I had like the opposite experience as someone who took that game in no way serious. I've talked about before, me and Joe basically played that game at a very tertiary level. We just did it for our own entertainment value. And so we never really ranked up or went anywhere or were able to do any of the larger stuff. I think we just barely got to the stage where you could do heists. And then we couldn't get enough people to do a heist. But yeah, for us, mostly it was just dicking around with a friend as opposed to dicking around by yourself in, you know, Grand Theft Auto. So that's kind of what we've all been jamming. I want to kind of move into a interesting news story. Well, first we'll talk about PSN dropped their free games for this month. So coming for July, we have got on PS4 Until Dawn and Telltale Game of Thrones. On PS3, they've got Tokyo Jungle and Darkstalkers Resurrected. And then on Vita, Elemental and Don't Die, Mr. Robot. So out of those titles, either you guys looking forward to anything, KG?
Until Dawn, I'm looking forward to. I think I was going to buy that when it came out, but I just, for whatever reason, didn't get into it. I'll probably try it out and see what I think. And not only just for that game, but to see what Ready at Dawn's capable of, the people who made that game, and see so that way I can judge when their games come forward in the future what I think. The Telltale games, I've really gotten burnt out on those games. I think when it comes down to it, they're just not for me. I mean, I have Tales of the Borderlands. I tried the first episode of the Game of Thrones one, and I even tried the Batman one. And, I'm one of the biggest Batman fans I know, and it just did not catch me for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I mean, they're a good selection. I think better than what they've been doing sometimes. So there's definitely some nice games there.
Yeah. What do you think, Ron? Anything you're looking forward to out of that pile of stuff?
Definitely the same as KG. I think the whole Telltale series has, and we've talked about this on the show many times, that it's a slow. I think it's the pacing of those games. It's very slow. The action bits are good, but it's just a kind of a slow pace, and it worked well with The Walking Dead because it built that tension. I find myself now getting quite bored playing them and just wanting to move on to the next episode, and checking what episode I'm on to see how close I am to the end. I think the likes of Life is Strange have brought that type of game forward in a direction that I want to see. A lot more realistic. Doesn't use a weird art style. Like, the art style is, their thing, and it's kind of comic book style, but I prefer the art style in Life is Strange, that more realistic art style.
Well, it's kind of interesting, right? Because what they're doing is they're basically putting two games up against each other who were up against each other in the market space. Because Until Dawn is really kind of the same kind of game, just done better and newer. And so I'm kind of right in lockstep with you guys on that. I don't have any interest in Telltale. I'm going to kind of lob it up there. My thoughts on that is that you aren't really invested in a Telltale game anymore unless you're already invested in the property deeply.
Yeah.
The problem is that they're even hitting a point of saturation with that because, like, as KG mentioned, something he's a big fan of. I'm a huge Batman fan too. I haven't even bothered to touch that game, and everyone's like, "Oh, you got to try it. It's so great."
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Telltale games are, it's almost, they're like 10-hour long movies, and they want you to play these movies. But in some situations, I would rather just sit back and watch it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying that their storytelling is bad. That's not a complaint on any of that, because I think if you can make it to the end of the series, like I've heard Tales of the Borderlands is very good. But I just don't want to sit there and move my character, look for things. I don't want the adventure aspect. I kind of wish they would just release movies if that's what they wanted to do, even if they did it in episodes.
I think it breaks the immersion when you have this really cool conversation and the next minute it's just, the main character standing on the screen and you have to walk slowly over to this area, click X, and he'll go, ooh, something. You walk slowly over to something else. And it really breaks the pacing of the whole game. We seem to all fall in the same path along the lines. Like, Telltale has a really good way of telling stories, and I think that's why they're still doing the things they're doing, still selling games, and have basically got so many big properties on their side as well. But they need to evolve in a way that, Telltale's next game, this is what they're doing, this is what they're going to do against the likes of Until Dawn. So again, it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, if you look at I almost see them doing something kind of like, if you remember the guys who did Heavenly Sword, Ninja Theory, how they have sort of failed to find critical success thus far, but they're like known for being very competent at building sort of fun, fast combat. And so they literally were subcontracting out to other companies, and it's like, hey, you build this part of the game well, but we'll build the combat for you. Like, they even did that for Infinity, the second Disney Infinity, and people kind of noticed how much the combat improved between the first one and the second one. So I could see them almost kind of like story contracting out. Like how sick would it be to see something like a Battlefield game, right? But like campaign story presented by Telltale Games. Like, to me, that's just a winning combination. Yeah, you can't go wrong with something like that. But I feel like they're still kind of locked in this mindset where they think they're going to make the whole game themselves. And as you guys noted, their biggest banker is their storytelling ability. They're some of the few people in the games industry that tell a story as good as they do.
Well, and two, they need to work on, and I think this has been said ad nauseum, is they need to work on their engine for that game because it runs terribly. And even
Yeah,
their fans of those games, like the people who like just go crazy when they come out, they're so tired of their saves being lost or the game just being wonky. Like and the thing is it kind of sucks. You guys have been releasing all these games. Take a year away and just rebuild it from the ground up. Make it look better. Get away from that art style you've been doing for every single game, and really try to take that leap forward and make your storytelling like that next big thing.
agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of agree on that one. But it was still a pretty cool game. Even if you're only interested in Until Dawn, that's a pretty big win for PSN for a freebie game.
Yeah.
Kind of want to move into a story that kind of flashed up. So we talked a little bit at length at our post E3 episode, sort of post mortem. I mean, we are all probably primarily PlayStation players, but we do like to visit on the industry news. And so the most recent development on what I lovingly refer to as the Xbone X, the Xbox One X, as a Titanfall 2 developer was quoted as saying that when they were doing some development on it, they were able to get it to render Titanfall 2 at 6K resolution for short periods of time. Now, obviously, that's pretty impressive since the bar right now is 4K. And he goes on to talk about how it really doesn't matter because it's not sustainable and it down reses it to 4K across the board as they're playing it. And but the raw horsepower is bigger than people really understand or realize. And I think that's comes back to, like we've talked about before on the show, that a closed architecture system with a custom UI and a custom OS in it, you can really pare that down and squeeze a lot out of it if you're not having to run a whole Windows or a whole, traditional OS system.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think? I got some strong thoughts, but I'll wait to the end. KG, what do you think of the sort of implications of that information being out in the public?
I mean, it's cool. I guess there's a couple of different things. One, Respawn is some of the best developers at what they do. The fact that they can have that game running at 60 frames per second, have a technology that they, I think, refer to as like dynamic resolution scaling, or basically just goes up and down depending on what's going on your screen. For instance, if there's two big titans fighting, it might not look at the 1080p. It might go down a little bit, but you're still going to keep those 60 frames, which is important for a game like that. They're really good at what they do. And I remember, speaking of that 6K thing, I think when I saw that story, it prompted me. I have a PS4 Pro, and I wanted to see what for Titanfall, what the upgrades were. And they were one of those guys that were out there when apparently Sony didn't get those kits out very quickly. And so they weren't very happy about the whole situation. But they're like, yeah, we're going to do something for it. We just got the dev kits today, sort of thing. And when I looked into it, they said that they basically made it so it wouldn't downscale as much on the PS4 Pro. So you would keep that 1080p at 60, and they weren't going to be running it at a higher resolution. But it just goes to show with the Xbox One X, and a lot of people I don't think get this on the PS4 Pro, is one of the things that's holding back the Pro from being that end-all be-all is the CPU. They didn't upgrade the CPU in the PS4 Pro. And so the reason why they're getting more frames in something like the Xbox One X is because they upgraded the CPU, the GPU, everything, and they can really unlock that and go with it. And so when people bitch about Destiny not having 60 frames per second on PS4 Pro, that's the reason why, is because they just have that CPU that's bottlenecked them. But I mean, Titanfall is still to this day, one of the best like first-person shooters out there, I think. And big ups to Respawn for being able to pull off that 6K on that. I mean, it's not easy. It's just really cranking that stuff out.
Yeah, I definitely think it speaks more to what Respawn's capability is than necessarily anything per se about Microsoft or the Xbox. But what do you think, Ronan?
Yeah.
Well, if it's a case that we're just talking about the console, I think we can say to each other the price point isn't what we wanted, but I still think you have to look at the console as what it is when it comes out, and what you're getting is a super powerful machine. Like, the power nearly scares me, and what I can see in the future, maybe not in this generation, but in the next generation, that could actually swing it Microsoft's way again, is if somehow they could get the Steam shop onto that system or onto a console that is, you know, connected through Windows. I think if you have Steam on your side, the games will be cheaper. I don't know how it will work, but just maybe in the next generation. We said last time that the problem with this console is the lack of first-party games that are going to be available. You're still going to have the likes of your Halos and your Gears of War, but these games are not as good as what PlayStation are pushing out on the other side. On PlayStation, we're getting original IPs in the likes of Horizon, Days Gone. You know, we're getting all these exclusive games. And would I rather play a very powerful console or an okay powerful console with better games? I'm a gamer, so I'm going to pick the one with the better games. And I think that's where Xbox are going to slip here.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that it even goes a little deeper than that. I think they've kind of misread from the business end. And, you know, I think Sony's advantage here is having gone through this just last generation. So if you look back, the PS3 came with the Cell processor, which is basically one processor bank out of a Cray supercomputer. And everybody was so hyped about how powerful it was, such a leap forward compared to even the 360. And it never really realized that potential outside of first-party games. The only stuff that really kind of tried to use that to its fullest potential is the first-party Sony people. The guys at Naughty Dog are very famously had stated that they had Sony hardware guys who were specialists in that. They had like an entire department dedicated towards helping them make what they were doing work with that console. And I think that Microsoft's kind of in a similar position. But, you know, the reality is last generation, it was the Wii was in first, the Xbox 360 was in second, and the PS3 was in third for the majority of the time. And so it was a fight for second. I think that KG kind of pointed out rightly that they're bottlenecked by somebody else's CPU because there's more of their stuff in the market. And so, you know, the reality is they're bottlenecked by their own CPU because first place right now is the PlayStation 4. Second place is the Xbox One. Third place, I think, will ultimately go to the Switch if it hasn't already. Fourth place is PS4 Pro. So you're talking about a console that's fifth place in sales. Now, if it's the Olympics, we're not talking about podiums here, but we're just talking raw numbers. Fifth place in sales means that no developer, except for a niche developer who wants to be known as the Xbox One X guys, which ironically is expensive because it's expensive to make something that uses all of that horsepower. It's not cheap. They can't really do that because they won't be able to sell their product effectively, or it won't review effectively. It won't be a good experience for the four consoles ahead of them in sales, which is unquestionably a massively bigger chunk of the market and a safer bet for your money. So I think that they're getting sort of hamstringed by themselves before they even get out the gate, because the only people that can do this system justice right now is Microsoft's first party, and they're kind of in the tank. You know, Microsoft's first party has not been doing much lately. Now, maybe that means they have a lot in the pipe, but at least at this point, it doesn't seem like they're really ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they have a chance with Halo, which will probably come out next year, to really just, I mean, those games have always been good, but for them to like really pull their stuff back together and really just punch through the wall with that game, they really could. And there was, I don't know if you guys had played it, but Halo 6 had some hints of a totally different kind of game that they had switched from. I mean, there's a part where you walk into a town and there's no fighting. You're like interacting with NPCs. And I'm like, that's not Halo in any way, shape, or form. But they looked like at one point they were trying to do something different with almost kind of like a Destiny-ish type game. So if they want to take that leap, they could definitely do it. Or maybe just make a new IP. I've talked to Ken about this before. And Ronan, you touched on it, is Sony's making new IPs, but they're coming from the same developers. The problem with Microsoft is they're taking their developers and they're pigeonholing them into one series of game, right? So they're, you know, the guys up at in I think it's Vancouver or whatever, they're doing the Gears games. Black Tusk Studio. That's all they're doing. Yeah. And then 343 is only doing Halo. And then the guys over with the Forza studio, they're only doing Forza. Like, if you give them the chance to not only express their creative freedom and make a new title totally outside of what they've done before, there's a good chance that not only does that make the previous series, like if you take 343 and instead of making Halo, they make some kind of third-person game you know, maybe like a horror game or something like that. Well, maybe that turns out to be great and it gets a fan base, but then it makes you want Halo that much more when it comes down the line. I think that's where Sony's been smart. They've let Naughty Dog do The Last of Us. They've let the guys from Killzone do Killzone and Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, you know, Killzone's not huge, but when they go back to it, they might be able to get a little bit of buzz because they've been doing Horizon Zero Dawn stuff. So
Yeah,
I think
well,
that's
they'll
where
definitely be able to
Microsoft's.
draw some people over. I mean, I think they
Yeah,
definitely, as a studio, won fans with Horizon Zero Dawn. I mean, shit, how can you not? But
Shit.
exactly.
Awesome game.
yeah, I kind of agree. I think that, you know, that it doesn't seem like their entire ecosystem from the ground up is set to support the Xbox One X, and so, you know, I guess, you know, kind of to put a cap on it, like the Xbox One X is super powerful and super impressive hardware. You're basically getting, I mean, a 5-year-old PC, which people go, oh, a 5-year-old PC, but that's actually a pretty hard leap, because just at the beginning of this generation, we were talking about 7 or 8-year-old PCs as being the standard for consoles. So to make a 3-year leap, you know, in 3 years' time is pretty impressive, because usually to make them as cheap as they do, they got to buy older stuff, use older components. It's just the nature of consoles being affordable. You know, I think that they're trying to shift into a PC zone, but what they're missing is that maybe to Ron's point, they don't have that Steam element, and they don't have that element of a lot of guys that are PC guys enjoy building the PC as much as they enjoy playing it, you know, and you can't, you don't have that customizability with the Xbox One X. So it's impressive hardware, but I just don't know if there's any real intelligent push behind the direction it's going.
Well, and one interesting thing that I think that they haven't really touched on that maybe they should have is the fact that that's the cheapest 4K PC on the market. I mean, if you think about it, right? The Xbox One S can play 4K games in native 4K right now at $500. And you know, I think it was a Digital Foundry or something like that. They tried to build that, and they couldn't do it. They could not do it for that price. They had to leave out the UHD Blu-ray player or whatever, which are they're super expensive right now. So I think that they should have leaned into that. It's like, hey, this is the cheapest 4K PC you can buy and put underneath your TV.
We actually talked about that in the last show, about the messaging for this console was just so mysterious, and it wasn't well brought across even at E3, that it's like, who is this for? Like, nobody knows. It's a thing that possibly will sell, but you know, the message, like you said, if they brought a message saying, like, what was it, the PS2 had the first Blu-ray player in a house, and that was
DVD,
what was it, DVD?
Yeah, PS2 is DVD, and they did the same thing with PS3 and Blu-ray. So
with the Blu-ray, okay. So that was a huge selling point, and that's nothing to do with games. It's intelligent marketing, and Xbox are just not doing it at the moment. The messaging is too confusing.
Well, and one other thing, and I think this is a bigger problem, and nobody really likes to talk about it, but it's an issue, is you have no reason to own an Xbox if you own a PC and a PS4. Because first of all, your PC will be strong enough to run games, and then second of all, you can buy all their exclusives on the Windows Store now.
On Windows, that's very true.
Yeah, and so it's like, I don't understand why they did that, because I understand that they own Windows as a platform, and they kind of want to get people to play that and use their storefront, but like, there really is no reason. I have Gears on PC, and it runs at 4K on PC, and so it's like a situation. It's like, why own an Xbox when your quote-unquote first-party exclusives are on PC?
I never actually thought about that. That's genius, to be honest, because what you're doing there essentially is splitting your gaming base, and it's not very smart if you think about it.
Yeah, it's actually kind of an interesting rabbit hole. We got time, so I kind of want to go down it. But you know, just to interject maybe a twist on that, something to think about. Do we think that maybe what really is going on there, and admittedly I'm swinging for the fences, but it's the only business strategy that fits all the boxes. Do we think that the next gen Xbox is going to become more of a Steam box type of setup to try and take advantage of that? Because if it's a Windows PC and it runs Windows and you can get all the Xbox exclusives through Windows, now you can run the Steam store without doing anything. Kind of to Ronan's point, you can just have Steam because it's a Windows PC essentially, even if it's got some of the other features stripped out, like, you know, the ability to do word processing stuff, or the ability to, you know, you know what I mean? Anyways, but yeah, some of the basic PC functions, but
So
Just kind of
essentially,
a
what
thought.
a Steam box was meant to be when it came out was a console style PC in your house that you could
Right.
buy games off Steam. So yes, I 100% think that's the way Xbox are going. And if they go that way, I think Sony will have to, do something to push themselves. Obviously, they're doing it right now, but maybe the next generation, if Microsoft can be intelligent, be smart. They have a great platform there to, push by or even come level with Sony.
Yeah, it's just hard because a lot of people don't really pay attention to this, but like Steam takes a lot of money off the top for those games, and they make a ton of money. That's the reason why Microsoft is pushing their store. Is everybody's kind of accepted Steam as like the go-to place, but what they don't realize is like they're taking like I think like 30% on some of these game sales. All the transactions that go through there, they're getting money off the top of, and it's kind of like the walled garden, but nobody complains about it because they've just accepted it, right? But like when Origin comes along or Uplay comes along on PC, it's like everybody throws up, gets their pitchforks, and like starts lighting fires, and it's like it's the same thing
Is it
that
not
Steam's
because the
doing.
UI is garbage on those other two, though?
It is, but that's why people have launched their own launcher. It's like why Blizzard has its own launchers because they don't want to go through Steam and give them that large of
The
a chunk.
money, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's the one thing that I think stops Microsoft from doing that. And I think they want to recreate Steam through their Windows Store on both the PC and the Xbox storefront. So whether they can do that, I don't think they can, but it would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you bring up a valid point there. The the power of Steam. I've always kind of laughed at when people talk about, when's Half-Life 3 coming? Never. They don't care anymore. They don't need your money. Fuck you.
They don't need
I
it.
know that's
Yeah.
harsh, but that's the truth of the matter. Is like they don't give a shit. They're the PayPal of video games, hooked to the Walmart of online video games. Like they don't give a shit. They're making so much money. People really fail to understand how much 2% of every single transaction, because that's like a standard residual that they can get for bringing that kind of business to somebody.
Well, and two, they own two huge like online games of service in Dota and Counter-Strike.
That's true.
Every bit of money goes through to them. So I mean, Dota and Counter-Strike are two of the top games on Twitch right now, and they will be for a long time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, so potentially Xbox X or Xbox One X is Skynet, I think, is what we arrived at on that topic.
It's not a great name either, is it?
I hate that name, man. I will figure out a way to degrade it worse than Xbone X.
It's a terrible name.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So, also, speaking of non-consumer friendly type of decision-making companies, Nintendo announced that they're going to be releasing a SNES Mini. It's going to have 22 games on it, I believe.
I think it's put as 20 plus 1 is what they're doing.
20 plus 1 is what they're calling it? Okay.
Yeah, that's the promo gig that they're doing.
They're claiming they're going to make them from their release in September through the end of 2017. So,
and that plus 1 is meant to be for a hidden game that you have to unlock.
Right. So that's 3.5 months of production on that console, and then likely they'll discontinue it again, just like they did with the NES Mini.
Oh my god!
And they'll go from $80 up to $300 in overnight.
Yeah,
they basically admitted this. They've come out and said that they're going to discontinue it after that.
They said it, yeah. I know.
Yeah. Just a couple of games that are on there: Contra 3, Donkey Kong Country, Earthbound, Final Fantasy 3, Star Fox, and Star Fox 2, which is what Ronan was talking about, alluding to, is an unreleased version of Star Fox. They've
Which
said
is
that
awesome.
you got to like the first level of Star Fox 1 to get Star Fox 2. So they're going to retail, I think, for $80 again, $79.99, I believe.
it's a little bit more expensive than the last one, I think.
Yeah, it's about 20 quid more.
Oh, is it 20? Okay. So what do you guys think of $80 for Star Fox 2?
Yeah.
KG, you take it first because I've got a bit to say on this.
No, I think it's exciting. I wasn't really into the NES Classic. I wasn't one of those people looking forward to that. But for the SNES, I'm excited because I never got to really play on that console. I am a Star Fox fan, so I would love to be able to play those games again. But It's just unfortunate. The whole situation with their sales on that is just terrible. Like if I was them, I'd be like, look, you have until September 1st, till September 30th to go into a GameStop and pre-order this console. Okay. Once you put your pre-order in, you are guaranteed one of these consoles. Now it will come out and we can't guarantee you when you'll get it, but it'll be before December 31st of this year. Right. And then right there, nobody's complaining. It's a limit one per customer. So you're not getting, and even
Yes,
then,
you kill the scalpers. Yeah. Or at
yeah,
least somewhat.
well, even if, a bunch of people come in and buy them, great. They're only getting one and everybody else is still guaranteed to get one because you know how much you need to manufacture. But there's a good selection of games. One thing I did want to say real quick is I saw IGN or Polygon put this up, and now that Star Fox 2 is coming out for the first time ever, and it's kind of a big deal, they kind of posed the question, what does this mean for the release of Mother 3 or quote Earthbound, right? And because it's never gotten brought over to the West, it's only been, in Japan, and a lot of people want to play that game. I'm not necessarily one of them, but I think it shows that Nintendo has some of these games that's locked away that they could do with what they want.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like the vault syndrome for like a dead musician kind of thing, except, obviously they're not dead. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about what the implications are for that marketing wise.
Exactly.
Ronan, you want to give us your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I heard the news, I think it broke yesterday or the day before, and I was listening to a couple of podcasts. I was listening to the guys over at Giant Bomb, which 100% are my favorite guys to listen to, and they were talking about this, and they said the likes of Earthbound and games like that, they're super expensive to buy in cartridge form. So essentially for Earthbound, which could be $80 to buy as cartridge, you're getting a full console with all these games that are legendary in the gaming industry. I think Castlevania 3 is there. Is that what you said, Kent?
Contra 3. I think Castlevania
Contra 3. Yeah, I think there was
Castlevania 3 or 2 might be on there too. I don't have a full list because I didn't feel like writing down a list of 22 games. But
the great thing about me is my son is huge into retro gaming. When I put on the likes of a Mario, even if it's a emulation, he loves it. He loves the art style. That we talked about it before, that retro art style is timeless. And yeah, it's a bit shitty that people can't pre-order these things and they will be rare. But the fact that people are giving out about that means like it shows how popular these things are. I'm going to try and get my hands on one. The fun thing about for me is I never got a chance to play the SNES when I was younger. I only ever got to really play it over in a friend's house, and it used to be for maybe an hour or a month. Like it used to be just really small. I was always a Sega kid. So as a gamer, to be able to go back and play the likes of Zelda, Mario, these games that I never really got a chance to play, that's what excites it for me. And I know my son will have fun playing them too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there that I think that there's a great opportunity kind of for people like you or even for your son who like that, like the exposure to a wider range of games that you can't get. I kind of have a different opinion on this. So when they announced this, I looked at it and I said, all right, they're going to do the same thing again. Even before they announced it, I knew they're going to do the same thing again. They're going to limit production. They're going to limit availability. They want the hype hot. They want parents out at Christmas time. That's why they're releasing it when they are, fist fighting in the aisles over these for their kids. They want people on eBay selling them for stupid money so that they get on the news. Like this is all part of the same way that this is kind of coming back to, I've talked about this before. Nintendo doesn't think like a video game company. They think like a toy company. And so they're doing the grimy toy stuff that people do every holiday to be the number one toy. This will be the number one toy, guaranteed. It won't get counted as it because it's a miniature video game console, but it's going to be the Tickle Me Elmo for those.
And will Switch be number 2 then?
I think that Switch will definitely do good this holiday season.
Because of Mario.
Yeah, because of Mario, I think it will. And so I think that's actually ironically very possible that they eclipse PlayStation, Xbox that have been selling for 3 years and are sort of coming off climb instead of going into a climb. So if the Switch is, I'll put it this way, if the Switch is really going to burst, it's going to burst this holiday, I think. But, you know, I could be wrong.
I agree.
But what it made me do is it made me look back and say, okay, I was going to pay between 60 and 70 for the NES Mini Original. And I was going to pay between, 70 and 80 for the SNES Original. And so what I really got is about $150 budget, right? And I already own a $150 retro console that I don't get to play as much because I have to track down the cartridges. And so I've been sort of floating this over in my head, and I realized that rather than try and get $80 for that SNES Mini, I think I'm going to build a Retro Pi. I can literally get one with a case that looks like a miniature SNES already with a cooling fan on it, and I could probably sell my Retron 5 and most of my cartridges. I might keep a couple just for sentimental value, and take the same $80 and apply it towards, stuff for that. But I don't think people realize a Retro Pi computer is $35 and a charger is $10. A case is $20. So you're around $65 right now for the actual physical console.
Where can you get
controllers? You can order them online through Amazon. You can literally, if you type in Retro Pi kit right now, you can get a kit on Amazon for $100. You do have to be a little PC savvy, but not a lot. I mean, just you've got to know how to drag and drop files and how to follow directions to download it. There's hundreds of videos on YouTube on how to do it. And so the question is like, how long is it before, somebody figures out how to monetize this? Right now, it's illegal to sell ROMs because they're other people's intellectual property, so you have to do it for free. But my question is, how long till somebody starts providing ROMs free to their customers, because they're allowed to do that, and selling you a retro console in a box with 2 controllers, because the new Retro Pi 3 has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi built into it now. And this will run everything from PlayStation 1 back. And not only that, but it's available if you're willing to go do some downloading and dragging and dropping. It's available free on the internet, PlayStation 1 and back. Every game you can think of.
Yeah. In that same respect, I'm kind of curious. And the first thing when I saw this SNES a couple months ago when it was rumored is kind of, hey, what kind of games they're going to put on there. I'm happy they're putting Mega Man X on there because I really enjoy that game. But also, are they going to do the N64? Because in my mind, as much as the SNES is famous for really solidifying Nintendo, it is the Nintendo 64, at least for my generation, is pretty big with games of like, Super Mario 64, Star Fox, right? Like that Star Fox game, I don't know how many times I've beaten that game. All those great games that are out there on there, and GoldenEye. I think people need to remember that game's kind of dog shit now if you go back to it. But back then it was really fun. And I think the idea of like a little Nintendo with like, the N64 claw controllers would be amazing. But I'm stoked for this. I hope I can get one. Unfortunately, I think the release date is when I'm going to be on vacation. So I will be in Las Vegas during this whole mess.
Yeah.
So I might be having to try to sneak one through customs on my way back if I find one. But it's gonna be cool, and I'm glad people are gonna get a chance to play some games that maybe they've never played before.
Yeah, I definitely think it's smart. I think you're right. I don't think they're going to hesitate to do an N64 because that's still fairly cheap to emulate. But after that, you got to wonder where the well is going to be. I don't think they can afford to release a little Roku box size GameCube with 30 games on it, because that won't really work. That'll be expensive. That'd be like a $250, I think, console still to try and make that.
It'd be awesome.
It would be. It would be.
Yeah, they do
I
run
just
into
don't
the
think
wall
it's the
of
same customer.
Yeah, they run into the wall. I think the N64 could be the last one that they could do for a while, just because of the fact that at that point, the people who are playing games have been through the GameCube cycle. It's not too far away from what we were just recently doing, so they'd have to put some time between it. But I think the N64 is ripe for that. It's still looked upon fondly in that situation.
And so then kind of the shadow looming over this, I also think that people have neglected is that the virtual console is AWOL on
yes,
on
and it's
Switch.
driving me nuts.
Yeah,
because
me
I
too.
actually
Because that's the main
I
thing I bought on my Wii U was Virtual Console shit.
yeah, and I actually, as it's gone along, I've really enjoyed my Switch. As I've started playing more and more Zelda, I'm like, this is kind of nice. I've gotten used to just taking the Joy-Cons off and one in each hand, not connected at all, and just sitting there and playing it like that. And I would really love to be able to play some of those old Virtual Console games. And not only that, their online service. I think people are giving them a pass on this, but like Splatoon comes out in a month and they have no online service to speak of, really. It's kind of crazy.
They're also trying to pass off a dongle in 2018. A dongle in
Yes.
2018. What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Hey, so is Apple though. To be fair, Apple passed off a dongle for their
Yeah,
latest
but
iPhone.
everybody acknowledges that Apple lives under a double standard, and everybody also acknowledges that Apple makes these ridiculously terrible decisions. Like, I feel like people are kind of over the shock of the dongle because they've been handing out dongles for a fucking decade now.
Yeah.
But for gamers who are technology forward people, because really the Apple product line is geared towards technical
Mainstream.
plebeians, or in my case, lazy people who don't want to maintain their tech anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that Nintendo's doing something different here. They're taking a group of people who are fairly technology forward, and there's already a better selling, more competitive product in the market, and they're making them do something old and shitty. Which, the funny thing is me and Joe joked, because you can't do a spoiler to anyone who doesn't own a fucking Wii U. You can't chat with people you're racing with on Mario Kart on Wii U. You cannot fucking do it. You can't do it.
Crazy.
So what we used to do was we used to get into a group phone call. I think you did this with us too one time, KG. We got into like a 3-way phone call. Ironically, me and Joe both own iPhones, so on shitty Apple products, and we just had a group chat on a 3-way phone call. We played Mario Kart. And so the irony is that their solution to their online chat problem is the same solution that their customers came up with fucking 8 years ago without a dongle.
They're the worst. I don't know, man. Nintendo, they make terrible decisions, but they make great games.
They're hitting home though with this Switch. Like, I'm for the first time in a long time, my head is turned with this thing.
I like the hardware better than I like what's on it at the moment, which is, people go, oh, well, that's terrible. Well, it's not, because the reality is I didn't feel that way about my PS4 or my Xbox or my Wii U when they first came out. I got an Xbox pretty late in the cycle, but I don't know. Like, I had access to one. I don't know anybody who is like, man, the hardware is fucking great. They're just like, cool, it works, it's smooth, it's great. Let's see what games they release. Whereas the Switch, you're like genuinely excited about the hardware, which is pretty amazing achievement.
And for me at least, they have me excited about their upcoming games, which they haven't done in a while. The idea that new Metroid, Super Mario Odyssey looks really cool to me. And Ken, I've talked to you about this, but like a full scale Pokemon RPG on a home console is like something people have wanted for like 20 years. I was talking to my friend who just kind of plays casually on the PS4, and he was like, I told him about that on Switch, and when I started to say that same sentence, we've been wanting this for like 20 years, he like finished it. Like, he knew. He's like, I've been wanting this, and I don't even have a Switch. Like, he's like, Pokemon back in the day was just one of those games he wanted on a big TV.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think that you're going to drag out to a lot of people. Like, I think it's almost kind of dumb of them not to have it this first holiday season available, because they could have really drug out a lot of that crowd that showed up for Pokemon Go. I don't think anybody really expected Pokemon Go to be as big as it was, because they didn't really understand how many people out there were Pokemon fans. They grew up playing that shit. Because the people that are kind of the gatekeepers of that information, the adults don't tend to think, well, what is my kid playing on their Game Boy? They don't give a shit, But that's what most people who are of buying age right now have played growing up, is Pokemon more than just about anything,
Yep.
So what I decided to do while we were talking here is I decided to send Shawnee a message while he's waiting for the cable guy and see if he had a final question for us, as Sean has always got prepared. And he couldn't have planned it better. So Sean's final question that he texted me is, what game for the NES, for the SNES Classic, are we most excited about playing?
Ooh. I guess I could go first, because I think I'll come from it from a different perspective, because I didn't play the SNES very often at all. So I'm excited for a lot of those games. But I think I'll pick a weird one out of the group is I think Final Fantasy 3. And
Nice.
part of that is because I've never played a numbered Final Fantasy game and really just kind of given it a chance to sit down and kind of dig my teeth into it. And I'm a huge RPG fan. Like I loved them. Like I played the old BioWare stuff, all that stuff. Like I was kind of crazy into that. And so I want to give them a chance and why not do it with some of their best work of all time? You know what I mean? I think is kind of the way I feel about that.
Ronan, what do you think? What are you most excited about that lineup they got?
First of all, I want to say I played through Final Fantasy 3, which is also Final Fantasy 6, I do believe, in
In the
Europe.
West. Yeah.
In the West, exactly. And it's an awesome game. One of the best baddies in any video game you will ever play. And
Yeah.
the story is really mature. The art style is timeless, and I think you're going to enjoy that game. Especially if you're a turn-based RPG fan in any way, shape, or form. That one is a classic, and I
Mhm.
played it actually only last year, and it holds up super well. So to be able to play it on a big screen, I think you're going to enjoy that one. I didn't play the SNES when I was younger. I played snippets of it. So for me, it's a case that a lot of these games are going to interest me. One, and just off the bat, because I think it's the most awesome piece of news to come from this console, and that's to play a newly released SNES game in 2017 in Star Fox 2. I think that is just one of the coolest things ever, to play a game that was developed back then, never played before, and to have it as a little unlock on the system. I just think it's the coolest bit of promotion work ever. And for me, it has to be Star Fox 2.
Yeah, I think that's probably like you could almost put an asterisk by anything I say. It was like Star Fox 2 is guaranteed the thing I want to play the most off of it. The funny thing is, I actually got to play Super Nintendo a lot growing up. I've talked about it before on the show, like, you know, before the advent of internet, like kids that lived together, kids that were friends would get different consoles, not the same console, so they could go play different shit at their friends' houses. And so that's what I did. I had a TurboGrafx. My friend Nick had a Super Nintendo, and my neighbor Darren had a Sega. And so we would go play at someone's house based on what we wanted to play, basically.
Yeah.
And for me, it's funny to look at this list. It's more of a commentary on how good the list is, because like I don't think I could pick one. If there's something that I'm really excited about just putting my fingers on again, is it's probably either Super Castlevania 4, just because I love the Castlevania games, and to be able to play in its sort of original version. I'm assuming that Nintendo's going to give it the love and care that it deserves, and kind of make it better than what's out there on emulation right now. And then to a certain extent, for that same reason, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Yeah.
I really enjoy those Street Fighter games, and I've gotten a lot of emulated versions of that, but I don't really have that that version, which is what I learned how to play on, not the arcade. I have it on Sega, but it's not the same game on Sega. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that, and I think that's probably a pretty neat setup for them.
And two, I think the most exciting thing to come about the SNES is something Polygon found out. They did the legwork on, or it was either Polygon or Kotaku, but the cords are actually 5 feet for the controllers now,
Yes.
not 3 feet, which is, you know, I mean, it's still not the best, but it's better than 3 feet, because on a 60-inch television, that's like staring at a wall. It's just
I don't understand why they didn't just put the original controller slots on the side of them, because you can literally buy their original controllers like off of the internet. Like people still make them for $12, $15, and Nintendo still has the ability to make them as well, and could sell them for more, because if you can get a bootleg for 12 or 15, then a real one for 25 is better. Like I just don't,
or better yet, just
kind of
make the controllers wireless. You know what I mean? Make the exact controller and make it wireless.
Cost, because you can buy wireless SNES controllers, but they retail like $40. I think you can get Bluetooth ones to play stuff on your on like your phone or your tablet or whatever.
Yeah. So they're probably going to release a SNES virtual console before they release a virtual console for the Switch. Just want to point that out.
Oh, you think they'll release a virtual console for this thing?
Well, no. I'm just saying that this basically is a virtual console that they're releasing, and it's going to come out before the Switch's version of the virtual console.
Yeah, I think we kind of didn't get into it earlier, but I think if they do the 64 thing, we won't see a true virtual console with any overlap in any way until after the 64 when they hit that wall.
Yeah,
which is disappointing, but
yep.
but yeah, I mean, I have to say the mix on here is really good. A lot of good stuff in there, and I think that's probably a pretty good spot for us to close out on today. Is that the one thing I think that everybody's excited about with this is getting to play some stuff in a really ideal environment to play it, which is the one advantage that I think that when Nintendo makes it, they always have over emulation or anything like that, is it's the environment for that to be the best in.
Yeah.
So I'll close it out by saying what Sean always says for us, but we get together, we talk about games because we love it. We don't have sponsors. We don't get paid to do this. Not that we would dislike that, but that's why we do it, because we enjoy it. It's fun. I want to give you guys, as we always do, a chance to plug yourself. So KG, if you want to plug yourself on any social media, any areas you're in.
I mean, honestly, if you guys want to find me on anything, whether it be PSN, Xbox Live, Instagram, Twitter, it's KG versus a world. It's pretty simple. It's all one thing, brand synergy. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, if you guys want to find me on there, just follow me on there or send me a friend request. I'm always down for people to hit me up.
Right on. Ronan?
As always, you can catch us on the Instagram, which is, as always, getting a bit of steam since Shawnee set it up at the Alpha Zone Gaming. You can catch us on Twitter at the AlphaCast, and I just want to throw out a big thank you for coming on and hanging with us.
Yep.
We're always looking for a guest, and you seem to fit right in, so we appreciate you having you on. Again, shout out to Shawnee if he's listening out there. Great question for him for the last part of the show, and yeah, catch you next time.
All right, I am, as always, at Squirp, SQU1RP, everywhere, Xbox, PSN, Twitter, Instagram, pretty much everywhere. And then I also wanted to do a shout out for Sean. Sean's starting a new site, and so I kind of wanted to plug that for him because I know if he was here, he'd want to get that out there as soon as possible. And so it's Sean on Stuff. And basically a lot of if folks who follow the show know that Sean does a lot of movie reviews and a lot of other stuff outside of video games. And so he's kind of given himself an outlet to cover that stuff. It's really neat. Sean's an excellent writer. If you haven't read his stuff, pretty good stuff. So definitely, if you get a chance, go check it out. Sean on Stuff. So I'm Ken Kingsford for the AlphaCast, and we are out.